Claire was no longer the woman David had married. Slowly, her attitude shifted. She became increasingly hard to please, pointing out faults in almost everything he did and constantly measuring him against the husbands of her friends. In the beginning, David brushed it aside, convincing himself it was just a phase that would pass. But as time went on, her dissatisfaction became impossible to overlook. One night, she approached him with what she boldly described as a final decision. According to her, if he genuinely cared about her, he would resign from his secure position and invest all his effort into launching the company she had always fantasized about, despite the financial danger and the heavy expenses involved. David responded calmly. He explained that their savings were limited and that risking everything they had worked for wasn't wise. He proposed building a solid strategy and putting aside more money before taking such a leap. Claire dismissed his reasoning with a mocking laugh, branding him dull and afraid. Her insults stung, but he refused to react with anger. He reminded her that safety and long-term security mattered, especially since they had only recently finished. Paying off their home loan, Claire accused him of destroying her ambitions. Then she intensified the situation by warning that she would walk away if he didn't agree. When David searched her face, he saw she wasn't bluffing. She genuinely believed that threatening to leave would pressure him into compliance. In the days that followed, their house felt suffocating. Claire withdrew emotionally, slammed doors, and delivered cutting remarks whenever he refused to give in. She even told her circle of friends that he was limiting her potential and that she was considering ending the marriage. What she didn't realize was that every cruel comment and theatrical display chipped away at the affection he once carried for her. After yet another heated dispute one evening, Claire gave him a smug look and said, "If you won't stand behind me, maybe I should just gather my belongings and go." She was certain he would break down and beg her to stay. Instead, David rose quietly, walked to the wardrobe, retrieved a suitcase, and placed it in her hands. "Then leave," he said steadily. Claire stood there, stunned. That outcome had never crossed her mind. In that instant, she understood that her calculated threat had completely collapsed. Rather than bending him to her will, she had driven him away. David wasn't enraged. He was done. He had shown tolerance, care, and patience, but she had chosen to gamble with their relationship. Suddenly panicked, she tried to retract her words, claiming she hadn't been serious and that it was merely a way to measure his commitment. David slowly shook his head. "Marriage isn't something you experiment with," he told her. "You don't prove devotion by threatening to abandon it. The moment you forced me to choose between our stability and your pride, you broke what we built." Claire wept and pleaded for forgiveness, insisting she loved him. But David had already reached a conclusion. He understood that authentic love does not depend on intimidation or emotional pressure. He was tired of living cautiously, as though one wrong step would push her away, and tired of feeling like a second option rather than an equal partner. Within days, Claire packed up and left. She informed mutual acquaintances that David had pushed her out. However, when people pressed for details, the entire truth came to light. Even those who had initially taken her side admitted she had gone too far. The reckless demand, she believed, would give her control ended up costing her the marriage. Though his heart ached, David experienced a surprising calm. Quiet returned to the house. For the first time in a long while, he slept peacefully, no longer burdened by constant arguments or unreasonable expectations. Little by little, he rebuilt his world. He concentrated on his profession and reconnected with relatives and old friends he had drifted away from. Eventually, Claire recognized the magnitude of what she had thrown away, but by then it was beyond repair. She sent lengthy messages filled with regret and apologies, hoping he might reconsider. David never replied. He realized that while forgiving someone might be possible, restoring confidence in someone who uses love as a bargaining tool is far more difficult. In the end, Clare's impulsive threat turned against her. She wagered her marriage and lost. David moved forward more resilient and more aware, having learned that affection cannot endure without mutual respect, and that sometimes true courage lies in knowing when to walk away.